Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, recently a commentator in Alberta had this to say. They said, if you look out east, I'll take Quebec. They import about 365,000 barrels a day of oil. 70%, all of it's coming from abroad. 70% of that's coming from the U.S. So we've got an opportunity to displace there. He went on to say we should be using it all the time ourselves because we're going to use what I call conventional oil and gas for the rest of my life and beyond. I'm wondering if the minister agrees with these statements.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Chair, while I thank him for providing me that précis of that commentary, the truth is, as I have said before, the most important thing is how do we work to build Canada as an energy superpower that's low cost, low risk, and low carbon. That is the task the Canadians have given us to do, and that is what we will work upon.
Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
The quote was, we should be using it all the time ourselves because we're going to use what I call conventional oil and gas for the rest of my life and beyond. Does the minister agree with those statements?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Chair, we will need energy to be able to support our country, and we're planning ourselves as to be an energy superpower. There are many forms of energy that our country can support, including if you use nuclear, electric, if we use hydrogen.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Well, Mr. Speaker, one of her cabinet colleagues has strongly expressed a contrary opinion, saying, quote, as much as half of oil reserves, proven oil reserves, need to stay in the ground if we're going to get where we are. Does the minister agree with her cabinet colleague?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
I can say that with certainty, that the position of this government is that we need to build ourselves as an energy superpower, and to do that, we will be working to make sure it's low risk, low cost, and low carbon. And we will look at all forms of energy that Canada is lucky to have as its resources.
The Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
When the minister hears such disparate comments, does she realize how hard it's going to be to achieve a consensus in this country around pipelines?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Chair, most of the chatter I'm hearing is from the Conservatives across the way, because what I saw last week was premiers and the Prime Minister sitting at a table and saying, let's work together. The only people who seem to be upset with that are the Conservatives.
Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Does the minister realize that both of those quotes I just read came from her own Prime Minister, the same person?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will quote, the Prime Minister said, Canada must be an energy superpower that builds low risk, low cost, low carbon energy, and that is what we will do.
Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
So the Prime Minister said he'll take Quebec. They import 365,000 barrels a day. All of it's coming from abroad. So we got an opportunity to displace there. Does the minister suggest we should use pipelines or rail to displace that oil from Quebec that her own boss says that we need to replace or displace?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Chair, as I said at the beginning of this evening, it's not my job to pick the project. My job is to make sure, as Minister of Environment, that we take into consideration the environment and how to get to net zero by 2050, which is our country's commitment, as is his home province.
The Honourable Member for Leduc, Wetaskiwin.
Yeah, my home province will be very closely listening to the conversation that we're having tonight. The Minister, the National Energy Board, in their decision on Energy East, said this, quote, the NEB will consider upstream and downstream greenhouse gas emissions in determining whether these projects are in the public interest. This is effectively the government policy right now. According to the now Canadian Energy Regulator, the old National Energy Board, in 2023, Canada imported $19.5 billion worth of crude oil. This included $2.5 billion worth of oil imported into Canada from Nigeria and $2.1 billion from Saudi Arabia. Is the $2.5 billion of oil imported into Canada from Nigeria and the $2.1 billion from Saudi Arabia subject to the same rigorous reporting on upstream and downstream emissions as oil coming from Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland and Labrador?
Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Chair, as I said earlier, we need to make sure as we build ourselves as an energy superpower that the energy that we're producing is low risk, low cost, and low carbon. In fact, that makes us more competitive as a market to people who want to purchase our products. Countries are looking to us to be able to fulfill exactly that type of energy, low risk, low cost, low